Let's stay with student protests then over funding. This particular matter has returned again, and now government is reviewing the funding model for higher education. Higher Education Minister Blade Nzimande announced on Thursday that the department was due to begin work on the review of the student funding policy. Now, in 2017, former President Jacob Zuma announced free tertiary education through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme funding. To discuss the students' continued funding crisis, we are now joined by Teboho Mashota from the Paralegal Lawyers for Human Rights. Teboho, good evening and thank you very much for your time tonight. Are you surprised at all that the Minister for Higher Education now says, well, NSFAS will release funds, registration must continue? This is the same minister who a week ago was saying, I cannot guarantee that NSFAS will fund how many people, but at least those who are returning will get funding. I mean, there was uncertainty. Today, there seems to be certainty again. What does that tell us about what's going
on? Thank you for having us. And firstly, I would like to say, to pass our sincere condolences to the family of Teboho Mashota, who lost his life in the hands of the police. And I must say that personally, I'm not surprised. This is what politicians do, you know, and it's just unfortunate and sad that they first wait for a life to be lost before they change their mind. And we've seen throughout the years that they wait for protest. It's not the first time that the students are protesting. We saw with the hashtag Fees Must Fall in 2015. Students protested, they were assaulted, they were shot at with rubber bullets by the police. We saw with Marikana massacre. So this is actually something that we are now used to when it comes to protest. The manner in which the police undermines the right to protest. And you know, this actually reminds me of the 2003 protest where residents of Soweto went to the mayor's house to say, we do not want the installation of prepaid meters. And they were met up or welcomed with shots from the mayor's security guards, and later on arrested, 87, myself included, arrested for saying no to prepaid meters. This is a trend. The strategy that was being used under the apartheid government is what is being used currently through this, what the so-called democratic country. And it makes one wonder to say, what is so democratic about this new South Africa when we still see the same strategy used under apartheid being used today, you know, on students who are saying, we want to go to school, you know, we want to be educated. But our government is actually, instead of addressing the issues, sending police on them to kill, to shoot at them, to use rubber bullets on innocent students. So this is actually...
Are we helpless as a society as far as that is concerned? I mean, are we helpless as a society to deal with the issue of the banning of the use of rubber bullets, especially when it comes to student protests who are protesting for legitimate educational needs?
I think this is the time to unite as a country. This is a time to unite and say enough is enough, because now this is, I think, as the Council of Churches had said, we also want the review of the use of rubber bullets. You know, the Constitution is clear, we have a right to protest, but we cannot continue, you know, to be bullied, because I think this is bullying by the police, because also what they've been doing, which is even in the past, is to, like they are doing currently with the students, to single out the so-called ringleaders, you know, like they did even with the previous struggles even in the communities. But now with the students, they're singling out their leaders, and the university is now suspending them for what? Yes, they can say that this is not related to the protest, but why the suspension? Why is it coming now? So we are saying, let us unite as communities, as organizations, and address this issue, you know, because then if we don't, we even saw during level 5 when lockdown started, the way police were brutalizing communities, the soldiers, the way people were being harassed and beaten up. We saw with Collins Khoza, with Nathalia Julius, you know, these are people who die in the hands of the police, you know. So we are saying enough, it's enough. This has to come to an end. It's time that before you utter a word, you think. When you start saying to the police officers, shoot to kill, Who are they shooting to kill? And it is unfortunately that most of the people who are protesting, it is us black people. So are you saying because I'm too dark, then I need to be shot? Because I look like a criminal, then people must be shot? You know, it's these utterances that are a bit problematic for me. And I think it's time that we just address these issues and politicians to account.
Address for me this question. I mean, the Minister of Higher Education raised a few eyebrows. In fact, one could even say he ruffled a couple of feathers when he made the statement on Twitter that it is the former president, Jacob Zuma, who caused problems for the NSFAS scheme with his announcement of free higher education in 2017.
Was he not part of the ANC? Is he not still part of the ANC? Why didn't he speak up? But actually, this thing is sickening, the opportunism that comes with politicians. He was part of the ANC. If this was the problem, he should have said it then. So now, when it suits him, he says no. And it makes us think that, oh, is it because now he's not part of Zuma? He's not part of Zuma's camp now. He's changing his, he's changing his tune. So it's not a problem that it was Zuma. Zuma was the president then. He was part of the ANC, and he's still part of the ANC. So what students want and what we want is free education. Come next year, we do not want the same thing, because now my nieces and nephews are going to school. So meaning next, because if you look at it, who is protesting currently? You know, it's that when the fees must fall in 2015, the students were protesting then. It's now the students, younger youth or younger students who have just passed their matric who want to go to school. So what it actually means is that this cycle is continuing. Next year, it's going to be another group which will be protesting, and the year after, and the year after. So this thing, as I'm saying, must be dealt with once and for all. And I'm not taking the story from Blade that it was Zuma. He's now passing the buck. He's the minister now. He must deal with it.
From a human rights point of view, and I suppose from a responsibility and obligation for this government to give the black child, or any child for that matter, a good education and future prospects of participating in the economy, how is government supposed to deal with the issue of student debt?
I mean, look, with regards to the student debt, we understand that, especially now in line with COVID, this is not the way. And we are not saying in short, what I'm trying to say is that, I mean, look, when we start talking about the student debt, then one will start looking at all this corruption that is happening. To say we have the PPE scandals, we have the tender monies that is being charged by government officials, but now it's like when it comes to students, we want them to pay. When it comes to a black child from a disadvantage, because most of these students are students who are depending on the NSFAS, who want to go to school. So what it tells you is that these are students who are coming from families that cannot afford to take them to school, and they are depending on government to go to school. So as Nelson Mandela said, I think education is the key to success. So if we want a black child to succeed, government must make it a point that a black child goes to school. And all this money that is being misused, all this funds that is being misused, must go towards funding. And obviously, yes, I'm not saying children who can afford or who come from well-off families who are able to pay must be able to pay for education. But children who are not able to pay, government must subsidize them. And we know that most of the children who are in universities are not able to afford the fees.
Teboho, we appreciate your time tonight, and thank you very much for joining us here on News at Prime. That is Teboho Mashota from the Paralegal Lawyers for Human Rights.